NBN. Many of you will be familiar, of course, with JB. He joined back in October of 2013, having spent a lot of time within the sector in both media and telecoms companies, including, of course, Telstra. JB, if you'd like to join the stage.
Thank you. And listen, events like this are amazing because they bring together actors from all over the world and allow us to share and look at our various experiences, our ideas, our new technology concept, etc. And in fact, attending events like this one, either here or internationally, have enabled us at NBN to identify some of the technology and some of the concepts that have then become part of our design and are actually part of our network today. So it's not only about comparing technology ideas or new technologies, it's also talking about the commercial model, the speed at which we do things. And you've heard it throughout the day today, whether it was Bruno or Mike, nobody in the room disputes the fact that ultimately the end game is more fiber, deeper in the network, eventually all the way to the home. The question is, how quickly do we get to there? And when do we stop at the node and for how long? When do we stop at the curb and for how long? It can also be to a HFC device or even to a 5G device, but ultimately we will bring the fiber deeper in the network. The question is, how quickly do we do this and what is the road to get to this? Having started as a purely FTTP project at NBN, we know how difficult it is and how complex it is to do this straightforward. And with the few exceptions of maybe Singapore and Qatar, there are nobody that is advocating a direct jump into full FTTP like this. We all agree that there is a pathway to get to it, and the question for us is, what is the pathway depending on the economic situation that we find ourselves and the network that we find ourselves with. Australia is not the easiest country to roll a high-speed broadband network. It's roughly the size of the United States. It's got remote areas, and in some cases, very remote areas. And then it has big cities that tend to be quite large sprawls with tens of thousands of people living in relatively large blocks in the outer rims of our capital cities. So it is hard to roll out a high-speed broadband network to all those houses without having to dig out every driveway in Australia. And we cannot put the difficult ones all on our satellite or fixed wireless product. So we need to come up with technology solutions that allow us to efficiently roll out our network by 2020 and provide universal high-speed broadband to everybody in Australia. Now, there is no doubt that moving to a technology where we reuse some of the existing networks, whether it's the copper network or the HFC network, has enabled us to accelerate our rollout. If you think about it, we were put in place to deliver high-speed broadband network to every house in Australia by 2020. The definition of it by Mike was 25 megabits per second. Our target is exactly the same, with in fact the vast majority of people in Australia being able to get 50 megabits per second. How are we doing on this? Here we go. The move to this strategy of using the existing network has enabled us to now pass the halfway point. So in June this year, we actually completed 50% of our rollout, and by the end of this year, we plan on being at 75% of the rollout. On the activations front, we've reached 3 million customers a few months ago. It took us 5 years to go from 0 to our first million customer on the network. It took us only 18 months to get from that first million to the 3 million we're at today. And in fact, the last million that we brought in, to Q3, took us 6 months. Sorry, it took us 12 months. So it gives you an idea of how quickly we've been able to scale up the rollout and the activations by using the existing networks that were already. When you now also look at the speed that people are taking on, 80% of the customers that are now on the NBN network have ordered a product based on our 25 megabits per second wholesale tier mix or lower speed than that. Of the 1.3 million customers that we currently serve with FTTN, 93% could order a speed tier above 25 megabits per second. And yet, it is still 80% of the customers that are ordering a 25 megabits per second product. So what we've done now is basically establish a track record and a momentum in terms of our rollout and our activations that show our goal of activating 8 million customers by 2020 is achievable in terms of timing, and it is delivering the speed that most customers actually want today. Having done this, we now think about how to future-proof the network, because you've heard it all throughout the day today. We know that ultimately people will ask for faster speed and more capacity. The question is, when will it eventuate, and when will the customer show a readiness to pay to justify the additional investment? So let's look at what we've done across all of our fixed technologies. On the FTTP, we already know that this is a gigabit capable network. A number of our retail providers have now actually offered that product on our network. The numbers are still quite slow, but we're encouraged to see that they're doing this, and it will take some time for that number to build. From our perspective, we've already tested the next version of the technology, so NG-PON. We've shown that it can actually deliver speeds up to 10 gigabits per second, so we know what the upgrade path is for the customers that are connected directly to fiber on our network. On HFC, which will cover probably up to about 3 million customers in our network, you've heard it again this morning, DOCSIS 3.1 is the upgrade path for us. We've already done some tests in our network. We've shown that it can deliver speeds of up to 1 gigabits per second. We're in the process of rolling out DOCSIS 3.1. We've done our first trials. We'll be doing more field tests early in 2018, and we're committed to roll out DOCSIS 3.1 to our HFC network during the year of 2018. This will not only help us deliver faster speed on the HFC, but as you've heard also this morning, it allows us to deliver a better customer experience. Because through that technology, we're able to better monitor, diagnose, and fix the network, which is also a critical thing for us. And beyond DOCSIS 3.1 on the HFC network, we're following very closely what's happening in full duplex DOCSIS 3 architecture. We're very encouraged to see what's happened with Cable Labs, who started to put together the standards and the rules for us to be able to deploy those technology in the future. And we know that ultimately they will give us full symmetrical 1 gig up to 10 gig speeds, but that's something that will come in the future. And then finally, on the copper network, which covers the rest of our customers for the fixed network, our upgrade path is FTTC, so fiber to the curb. By bringing fiber that close to the home and then jumping onto the copper for the last few meters between the curb and the home, we're able to bring high-speed broadband to all the premises that are on the copper network a lot faster than if we had to go and wait until we're able to justify a full fiber rollout. We've done some tests in our labs. We're now in field trials deploying FTTC, and we are committed to launch this product in the first half of 2018. And we know that with this technology, we'll be able to provide speeds in excess of 100 megabits per second to the premise that we will be connecting through this technology. And it's very exciting to see how quickly that technology has gone from a concept to something that is now network ready. It's moved so quickly that we've been able to actually make it part of our initial rollout. And we're now committed that about 1 million premises will be deployed using FTTC on our network. And it's something that we've been able to do without jeopardizing our 2020 end date for the rollout of the network, and without materially changing the economics of the project. So something that we've been able to take advantage of very quickly and efficiently. But beyond this, and we've announced it in Berlin at the Broadband World Forum, we've also committed to deploy G.fast. So on the FTTC network, we'll be deploying G.fast in the second half of 2018. With this, we have a clear pathway to delivering gigabit speeds to premises that will be connected through FTTC on G.fast. We're working with 3 great vendors in this market. I'd like to acknowledge them today. So Nokia, Netcom, and Adtran, thank you for being on the journey with us to bring this technology to Australia. We'll be at the leading edge of telcos in terms of rolling out FTTC G.fast at scale in the world. So it's something that we're very proud of, and again gives us that 1 gigabit upgrade pathway for all the premises that will be connected using the copper network. So if you think about all of our network, for all of the fixed technology, whether you're connected directly to fiber, to our HFC network, or to our FTTN network, we now have a clear upgrade path that guarantees us speeds of first up to 100 megabits per second, but then beyond that, up to 1 gigabits per second, and in some cases, beyond that. In fixed wireless, we've invested about $3 billion to cover 600,000 premises that are in the outer areas of our capital cities. It's a huge investment. About 200,000 customers have connected to it to date, and they are able to access speeds of up to 50 megabits per second on the fixed wireless network. And it's not small data plans. On average, the customers that are on the fixed networks consume 80 gigabits per month. So this is high speed and high volume on a fixed wireless network. In terms of upgrade paths, we've already done some tests in Ballarat in Victoria, and we've been able to deliver 1 gigabit per second using carrier aggregation technology. So even in the fixed wireless space, we have an upgrade path visibility of what we could do to deliver higher speed, again, when the demand justifies it and when the readiness to pay for it is here. So it might take a bit of time to see some of those products come to life, but already later this year, we're committed to introduce 100 megabits per second on the fixed wireless network. And then finally, I haven't talked yet about the satellite network. We spent about $1.8 billion to make sure that people in remote Australia were able also to access speeds of 20 megabits per second. And that's probably the largest investment that's been done in the world in terms of providing coverage to very remote places in the country. The product is the very latest technology. It's 25 megabits per second delivered through satellite. It is really at the edge. So it has had its teething issues at the beginning. We're now very happy with the fact that we've brought the platform under a lot more stability. We've also fixed a lot of the issues that we had to do initial rollouts and installations. And we're now quite happy with the product that we have and confident that it is delivering a high reliable broadband connection to people in remote Australia. And in fact, at the last Broadband World Forum, that service got an award for the social benefit it had delivered in people living in rural and remote Australia. So let me try to conclude. At the end of the day, the NBN rollout is the largest infrastructure project that this country has seen. We're very proud to be playing a role in it, and we know that with the strategy that we've put in place, we are now on track to deliver a full rollout by 2020, bringing 8 million customers on it, and delivering the speeds that the market currently needs. But we also have upgrade paths for all of our technologies that gives us the ability, as the demand eventuates, and as customers are ready to pay for it, to take us well into the gigabit world that a lot of the other people around the room have talked about today. So thank you very much, and I'm happy to take a few questions.
Any questions in the room for JB and the NBN?
You know it all.
Okay, maybe I'll ask a question
Sure.
as my prerogative. Maybe you could sort of talk a little bit about the way that the current government as well see NBN progressing and how they're happy with the current model base and how it's evolved and what they see next. Are they going to surprise you with any more challenges for rollouts, or what you're doing now, is that sort of set in stone?
This is like looking into a crystal ball. I don't know what the government will do. As you know, we'll have elections probably within the next 12 to 18 months, and we never know what new policies can come around these types of events. What we've done since we moved to the technology of using existing network is delivered quarter on quarter on the numbers that we said we would hit. The fact that we've hit and passed the halfway mark, the fact that we'll be at about 75% coverage by the end of this year, the fact that we now have 3 million active customers onto the network are all the milestones that we had set up to achieve almost 2.5 years ago when we started on the new journey. So from that perspective, we're delivering on the program that we had said we would, at the cost that we had said we would. I hope that that's something that counts in the eyes of our shareholders and government. We know that there's a lot of focus on customer experience and that we have more work to do because every single activation that goes wrong is one too many. We're spending a lot of time focusing on this from both an activations and an assurance perspective, but ultimately that's all we can do.
Okay,
Okay.
great. JB.
Thank you.